Manipur Special Advisor Kuldiep Singh has spoken about an intelligence report that speaks of 900 Kuki militants from Myanmar possibly entering the state and launching coordinated attacks on Meghdi villages. Kuki groups have called this preposterous propaganda. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. Our focus today continues to be on the troubled northeastern state of Manipur, where for more than a year, there are simply no signs of peace. After a period of relatively tense calm, the state erupted again a few weeks ago, after which came the alarming press briefing by the security advisor of the state, who spoke of an intelligence report that referred to 900 Kuki militants entering the state from Myanmar and launching coordinated attacks on Meghdi villages, a date has even been provided in this intelligence report, talking of the 28th of September as being a likely framework for when these attacks might or could take place. Kuki groups have called this propaganda, have called this preposterous, and have said that it fits in with a narrative that is biased against their community, a narrative that is being promoted by the chief minister of the state, Biren Singh. In the meantime, what does this do to the talks that have been taking place between several Kuki organizations and the central government now for months altogether? These talks have, among other things, focused on the demand by Kuki community groups for a separate administration. Mighty groups have said that should be out of the question. To talk about all that is happening in Manipur and why we are entering this new troubled area, I'm joined now by Dr. Seilen Haokip. He's, of course, the national spokesperson of the Kuki National Organization. Dr. Haokip, thank you for your time. I want your response to what the special advisor has said. In fact, when asked how specific this intelligence warning was, he said 100% unless we are proved wrong. How do you see this intelligence report? Very specific, 900 Kuki militants from Myanmar, 28th September being offered as the time frame. How do you respond?
I think I'll emphasize or reiterate what the Kuki NP and the Kuki student organizations have already stated to debunk that kind of what they call preposterous narrative. I would add to that the fact that, this comes on the heels of the transnational narco terrorists, illegal immigrants, and all that jazz that has been floating all over the place, which is fed by the state media. And it is actually quite tiresome to keep dealing with this kind of rhetoric that comes from the state. But at the moment, I must say, quite surprised that the unified leader, Mr. Kuldeep Singh, should come to a point of making a statement of that nature in the national media. Obviously, he is saying something, apart from debunking it from our side to say it is absolutely false. We don't need transnationals because our political demand is constitutional and within the country. And there's no need for us to resort to any kind of situation where, we are being accused of. It goes against the very official political objective that we have already stated time and again. So I would say it is up to Mr. Kuldeep Singh and the powers that be to prove themselves. And I'm sure there are intelligence networks in the country which can suitably debunk, apart from our efforts to do the same.
Dr. Haokip, you, among others, have held many rounds of talks now with the central government. In your talks, have they ever indicated their concern over transnational groups of the kind that are being referred to now?
Never even been referred to or hinted at, because they know what is on ground, what is true, and we interact at a very respectable, transparent, context. We do not try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, let alone the government of India, which is engaged with us. We have certain self-respect, which I think others perhaps don't.
One of the comments made by Kuldeep Singh when he spoke about these Kuki militants from Myanmar is that they are trained in the use of weaponized drones, in the use of drone bombs. Now, this has been a major point of contention in the last few weeks. You've had the former Director General of Assam Rifles tell me, among other platforms, that he believes the drones were used for surveillance and not for dropping bombs. But the Manipur police has argued otherwise. You've had other former army commanders argue otherwise. How do you respond in particular to this allegation that Kuki groups have been using drone ammunition, drone bombs?
I admit we do utilize drones and those that are available in the commercial market and essentially for surveillance. And we have known capability, resources to acquire drones that can carry payloads to, cause the kind of bombings that the state government alleges. Again, I wouldn't like to dwell on these kind of allegations because there are agencies in the country which can suitably debunk. We should be talking about more relevant issues, no reflection on what you're questioning, but these are topics of I find them inane.
Well, let me tell you why I'm asking you about them. You may find them inane, but they have been very much definitive of the fault line or the most recent fault line. There are multiple fault lines in Manipur. It remains an effectively partitioned state where members of one community cannot go to the geography of the other community. But what you might call inane has defined the public utterances of both the police and the special advisor. They have led to an argument led by a former Director General of the Assam Rifles, who has gone on record to say he doesn't believe that the drones were weaponized with bombs. And when the security advisor of a state comes out and says that there are coordinated attacks being planned on Meitei villages on the 28th of September, which is what Mr. Kuldiep Singh said, how can it not escalate the tensions on the ground? How can it not exacerbate the differences between the two communities? How can it not add to an already divided state? Hence, I ask you about them.
And you are quite right in doing so. And I would concur with the line of reasoning that you make. These are adding fuel to the fire. And it's not coming from us. It's coming from the state and those associated with the state. Therefore, I only agree with you that it adds fuel to the fire. And in that nature, I refer to it as inane. No reflection on the quality of your question whatsoever.
Could you then tell us what is the way forward from this place that Manipur finds itself in, where in your talks, please correct me if I'm wrong, you have focused on the demand for a separate administration. You have also seen the Meitei groups being very categorical that that is a complete no-no. In fact, they object to why these talks are taking place at all between organizations like the KNO and the central government. Could you share with us, to your specific demand for a separate administration, what has been the response in the talks you've been having with the central government?
The response is that we are engaging on that subject in the context of the developments since 3rd of May last year. And to elaborate on that, pre-3rd May, we had asked for a political settlement within the state of Manipur by way of Territorial Council. So as we always have stated in other places, Kukis have been the vanguard in maintaining the territorial integrity of Manipur. However, if we are being begrudged our political demand within the state to elevate our development and concerns or anything else that would strengthen the state of Manipur within the state of Manipur, then the fact that things on ground developed or erupted last year speaks volumes about how the majoritarian community in the state want to continue denying us our political rights and our, what we would say, demands in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. And it boils down to that. The majoritarian government, a group, community, do not want the Hill people to develop, however reasonable our demands are. So what comes across very pointedly is, as the narrative and rhetorics that they have been expounding on over and over again, which without being articulated in a pointed manner, they're essentially saying Manipur belongs to us and you are foreigners, and they drive that narrative. And therefore, if you want to live, you live according to what we, determine or state. Otherwise, you have no right. And our response to that is we are not asking anything from the state. We are asking what we want from the government of India. For the majoritarian group, the community in Manipur, they have perceptions of the state of Manipur as it is today, and they drive this to sort of establish a concept that it's really using present-day norms to justify a past. And however irrational that is, they are fully convinced, and they are driven by that concept to the detriment of the state and to the suffering of our people. We are being dealt with by a point of view which to us is incredible. And we are paying the price for their irrationality.
But please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a problem technically that the suspension of operations agreement that groups such as yours signed with the central government, one of the clauses in that agreement was that the territorial integrity of Manipur would not be changed in any way. The Meitei groups argued that a separate administration carved out from within Manipur would amount to actually a violation of the agreement that groups such as yours have signed with the central government. How do you get around this? And when you brought it up in your talks with the center, how have they responded?
Yes. See, there's an anachronism in that matter that you elucidated. One,
yes,
when we were asking for a territorial council, it was within the state of Manipur. And so the territorial integrity of Manipur was in no way threatened. There's no contradiction whatsoever. Now, that era ended on the 3rd of May 2023, when they got physical with us. Despite the fact that over the last 50 years, we have tolerated all the abuse, socially, politically, deprivations of what kind, and we dealt with everything in a political, social nature. But once they got physical, that aspect of us demanding something within the state of Manipur has been, completely broken by the state physically. I say the state because the state forces were involved in the attacks against our people in Phal primarily, and then in the subsequent days they got to the hills in the same force. So there is no contradiction for us in respect of demand concerning the territorial integrity of Manipur, because TC was within the state of Manipur. Now, if you put that context today, post 3rd May, where we are talking about separate administration because we've been driven out, then for us, we have nothing to apologize about. We have to sort of pitch the level of our demand, and it is now out of context of that clause that you referred to.
But how has the center responded? How has the center responded to your demand for a separate administration?
It's still in process. There's no conclusion yet. And it's all very civil, very appropriate, and nothing out of the ordinary, despite all the mudslinging that's coming from the state, calling us all kinds of things to drive.
So you're finding it easier to talk to the center than to the state?
Well, the state is certainly not engaged in ethnic cleansing and genocide of our people.
No, I meant that you're finding it easier to talk with. There's a BJP-led government in both the center and the state. But you're not having a problem talking to the center. Those talks are productive, according to you.
Productive in the sense that we are dealing with the issues in a respectable manner. They level with us, we level with them, and it's all proper. Nothing, akin to the kind of mudslinging that's coming from the state. And in my opinion, a lot of that kind of labeling that has been going on, that we are narco-terrorists and there's this transnational conspiracy and the whole gamut of things, is to justify, in our opinion, the use of state forces against citizens of the country, which is us.
Now, you have said that all of your demands are constitutional and within the framework of the territorial integrity of India. Uh, but there have been allegations that the suspension of operations agreement that was signed by Kuki groups may have been violated in the last few weeks and months. What do you say about that?
Violations of ground rules is what you're referring to, and the ground rules
Yes.
categorically state that SO cadres must not use violence or fire upon the state forces. And we have never ever done that. But the state forces on 3rd of May were leading the Meitei mob with their in commando uniforms and commando vehicles and attacked our people in Imphal. And then subsequently, as I hinted earlier, they came into the hills with that force. So who has violated the ground rules?
Now, you speak about the state forces, but my own sort of very rough understanding of the situation is that one of the tragedies of what's unfolding in Manipur is that the security forces seem to have also been caught up in this hyper-polarized environment. So the Kuki people have no faith in the Manipur police, and the Meitei people have targeted the Assam rifles. I'm saying it roughly. Obviously, there are exceptions to both, but largely we see, and I have seen this with my own eyes, Mira Paivis, for example, obstructing soldiers of the Indian military. But we've also seen women of the Kuki community sometimes obstructing the Manipur police, who they feel did not protect them when they needed to be protected. How do we get past the fact that security agencies, security forces are now caught up in a way in this strife, so that one community is blaming the police and another community is blaming the Assam rifles?
Yes, I think you have to take a very objective view of things on ground. When the Assam Rifles, for example, or the Central Paramilitary Military Forces or others want to do some operations in the valley, they are obstructed by the people that you referred to. And under no circumstance will you find any evidence of the Central Forces ever using their force to, harm the public. If, for example, the army gets report that there are valley insurgent groups in a certain locality and they want to go and check that, they are blocked. In our case, we have blocked the security forces because from 3rd of May, as I referred to earlier, they have openly used their forces against us, not only just beating people in Imphal, but launching 2-inch, 3-inch mortars into our lands in the hills and using snipers against our people. So look at the difference of activity if you compare to what the Central Forces are doing. They're merely trying to go and carry out an operation to investigate. In the case of the state forces, they are shooting, bombing us. Why will we not stop them?
Let me ask you this. On the one hand, your people are being accused of links, as you said, with narco-terrorists and transnational groups, which you have denied. But on the other hand, among the victims have also been actually former soldiers of the army. Among the lives lost in the most recent round of violence was Havaldar Mate, whom we actually reported on. He was just a accidentally strayed into an area that he was not supposed to be in. Now, how do you look at this whole debate? On the one hand, you're being called, people who are linked to foreigners. Even some of the comments in the audience stream are calling you a foreigner. They're asking me why I put a foreigner on the platform. On the other hand, you have soldiers of the military from the Kuki community who have suffered.
And you have explained it quite clearly. If you look at that objectively, an Indian army in civil uniform on holiday goes to buy something across the buffer zone and he is killed. Now, has that kind of thing happened where a Meitei police or army officer going into a Kuki area? One, I have not come across one, but if they did, I couldn't say what would happen to them either. But the point is, all these.
I mean, there has been suffering in both communities. In the same week, and Mr. Mate lost his life, a woman from the Meitei community was killed as well. So, I mean, it's not as if we can say that human suffering as I see it, there's suffering in both communities, enormous suffering in both communities.
Yes, Barkha, you just mentioned Mate and
Yes.
a woman, a Meitei woman killer. Could you elaborate on the Meitei woman? Which incident where, please?
No, I know what the point that you're making. You're saying that is there an equivalent incident where somebody has crossed over into a Kuki area and been killed for that? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
that woman you refer to certainly did not cross into the Kuki
Yes.
area. She was apparently
Yes.
killed by a stray bullet because there were crossfire going on between the Meitei militants and our volunteers. And in that crossfire, and there's no certainty that the bullets came from us that killed the woman. Now, I'm not absolving or in any way unsympathetic concerning the death of a woman, particularly, because we Kukis do not attack women or elder people in any kind of conflict. So that woman's death is accidental, and whether it was a stray bullet from volunteers or in the exchange of fire that came across from the Arambai Tengol militants, I mean, I won't be able to determine that, but I do, express my sympathy for incidents like that where an innocent person is, killed.
Can I ask you in the end, where do we go from here? On the one hand, you have a channel of communication open with the center, which you say is, it may be slow moving, but it's respectful, it's plain spoken. On the other hand, you have the kind of statements we've had, very, depending on your point of view, either alarmist statements, propagandist statements, or accurate statements. It depends on who's responding to Kuldiep Singh. Where do we go from here? Where are the people who can build a bridge between both communities? Where are those people? Where is that leadership?
See, government is talking about members from both sides of the communities engaging in some kind of dialogue at different levels so that there'll be understanding among the two communities, and violence would be overcome by a better approach, an amicable approach to resolve issues. And SO is one such, which is officially there, engaged with the government and seeking a political solution in a civil way. And the state objecting this process, it tantamounts to being against peace initiatives by the center, and to which the SO groups are committed. Now, so the way forward for us, in the official sense, because we are asking for a political settlement, is that we resolve issues constitutionally. And the provisions are very clear. And in those contexts, discussions are going on between the government and the SO groups.
Is there a timeline? Because it's already been more than a year that the state has been, virtually at war with itself.
Yes, a timeline has not been specified. I don't think you can set a timeline for such negotiations because there are a lot of complexities involved. But the fact that government is talking to us and we are willing to engage in that talk means we are looking for a way forward which will overcome the present crisis that we face. And we want to overcome that in a sensible way. We are not.
And when are the talks again? When do you meet the government again?
That is the prerogative of the government, and they haven't sent an invitation yet in this month.
All right, Dr. Haokip, we leave it there. All I think we can hope is that dialogue with the government leads to a way forward that can restore not just peace, but also a sense of justice and equity in the state of Manipur for all people. And I will leave it there. Thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll connect again, especially after you have an opportunity for another round of talks with the central government. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.